How dare you disrespect Sam Donald? How dare you disrespect Sam Donald? Come on. All right, welcome back to the Villain Report. I am the villain. And if you're looking for outrage, if you're looking for fake outrage, hot takes, lazy hot takes, or someone screaming fire everyone because their team lost a football game, then you're coming to the wrong place. This is where we talk playoff football, thin margins, and uncomfortable truths. It's the divisional round. The games are bigger. The emotions are louder. And for Lions fans, yeah, it still stinks. It stings. And tonight we're going to break down Bills, Broncos, Bears versus Rams, Patriots versus the Texans, and the Seattle versus the San Francisco. What matters, what doesn't, why the outcomes aren't decided by Twitter polls. And we're also going to get a new offensive coordinator here in Detroit. The targets haven't had a chance to talk about any of this stuff yet. Free agents that actually fit the roster. And why context matters more than cope. This ain't about being positive or negative. It's about being honest. So buckle up. Get uncomfortable if you need to. Let's talk some football in the right way. It's faith, family, and then football. In that order. So let's go. But before we get there, before we talk about some football right here, I got something I got to get off my chest right here. Right there. I want to take you, or at least I want to take a quick minute right here because I haven't been on here in a minute. And I want to make the most of the time that I have. So coming on here and talking to you all is a privilege to me. And I'm not a negative guy, and I'm not going to get into all the reasons why I can't come on here as much as I used to. But what I will say is this, is I am in full support of autism awareness. And even more so, I'm in full support of my wife, who is an advocate in every sense of the word. And we're going to make sure our autistic son, Riker, gets the proper education that he deserves. And while I'm not going to put him in a school that doesn't support him, that doesn't understand him, or doesn't fight for him. That's non-negotiable. Because at the end of the day, it's faith, family, and then football in that order. And every single time, I'm always going to take care of my family first. So if you want to support this mission, I got that QR code up in the left-hand corner. Any support, big, small, genuinely appreciated right there. Every donation will go towards helping my wife continue spreading awareness and advocating for families who are walking down the same road. So let's talk some football. Let's get into it. How the hell is everybody doing out there? Is there anybody out there yet? My name is Russell Wayne. I'm the 313 Villain. And this is the Villain Report. And I wanted to talk about these playoff football games. We're past the wild card round. You had the Buffalo Bills advancing to the division round. And it's a big stage, thin margins. And Bills versus Broncos. Broncos, the number one seed in the AFC. And while I'm getting into it, you might as well just throw your predictions right into the comments. Bills versus Broncos. How do you see this going down? 4:30 Eastern on CBS. Cold air, thin oxygen, and heavy consequences. So, 14 wins. First home playoff game since 2015. That's what the Broncos are dealing with right here. And yeah, the last time it happened, they ended up with the Lombardi. So this is Sean Payton putting his stamp on the roster that doesn't need fireworks. It needs execution. And at the center of it is quarterback Bo Nix. 7 game-winning drives, smart distribution, and mobility when it actually matters. This Broncos offense isn't loud, but it's timely. And against a Buffalo defense that's been leaky against the run, and especially against mobile quarterbacks, Nix isn't just throwing passes. I would think that he's the plan. And talking about the other side, but here comes the problem. 2 words for you. Josh Allen. Bruised, battered, carrying the entire city of Buffalo on his back like a weighted vest. The Bills, they don't just win, they don't win without him. I mean, he is everything to that team. And somehow that still hasn't stopped him. He just dragged Buffalo to their first road playoff win since 1993, playing through pain, making throws that have no business being completed, scrambling out of sacks, like the laws of the law of physics are optional. But now he's walking into the best pass rush in football in the Denver Broncos. 68 sacks. 4 guys with 7+ sacks. And Patrick Surtain is erasing like half of the field. And this is the kind of defense that shortens games and it shortens quarterbacks because they're taking a lot of hits. Going to have a hard time making it through. But the Bills blew them out last year, like 30-7 or something like that. The game flipped in about 10 minutes in real time. A couple of 4th down conversions, a rushing avalanche, and suddenly Denver was chasing ghosts. And this time, different venue, different Broncos team. And here's the villain truth. This game comes down to who cracks first. If Josh Allen survives the rush and makes Denver pay with his legs, then Buffalo controls the run and the Bills would advance. But if Denver hits him early and they make him move laterally and they turn this game into a grind, then it favors the Broncos. This is strength on strength, experience versus ascension. And the margin, to me, is razor thin. Just playoff football doing what it always does, exposing who can still make plays through the air. And when the air gets thin, the clock gets loud. So pick your side, argue it in the comments, faith, family, and then football in here. But because context matters, let's talk about this for a second. Josh Allen has a unique opportunity right here. Hey, and good morning. I'm so used to the morning. It's good to see you, Dave. It's good to see you, Jason. Let me get my drops over here a little bit closer to me. Yeah. Happy New Year, Becca. Got Denver on this one. I feel you on that. If Josh Allen is ever going to bring a Lombardi trophy to the city of Buffalo, this has got to be the year, right? I mean, I'm thinking that this is going to be the big test right here. And Josh Allen has no Patrick Mahomes. There's no Lamar Jackson. There's no Joe Burrow. I don't think that there would be a better opportunity for Josh Allen to finally bring it home. And I had said there was a couple years ago when he had faced Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick Mahomes came back in that whatever 17 seconds left on and taking them down to win the game. I was like, anytime that Mahomes is going to be in here, he's always going to be the boogeyman for Josh Allen. But there is no Mahomes. There is no Lamar Jackson. There is no Joe Burrow. And I know that these teams have better records than he does, but I still feel like this is going to be the best opportunity for the Bills to reach the Super Bowl again and win it. And that's why the villain is going to pick Josh Allen to go into Denver and get this upset, because I don't think he's going to have a better opportunity. And if he doesn't get it done, I don't know if that's ever going to happen for him. If that's going to be one of those things, it's just going to weigh on his head, and he's never going to be able to get over that hump. And that's my opinion. So let's see what we got in here. Becca's got Denver. Barry says that he wants the Bills to win, but he thinks Denver's D is going to be too much. Dave says 31-24 Bills. And, you know, this is like a good game right here. I like this matchup. I like Patrick Surtain as a cornerback. I mean, anytime you can have a cornerback that's going to be able to cut off half of the field, that's dangerous, right? And then you have all these different pass rushers, and they're coming from everywhere. You know, the Lions have that problem where you got Aiden Hutchinson, and everyone's like, who's going to be the guy opposite of Aiden Hutchinson? Well, Denver doesn't have that problem. They got a bunch of guys that have 7+ sacks, so it's not like you stop one, then you're okay. They can just attack you in all kinds of different ways. So that could be a problem for Josh Allen in this game. And if Denver wins, that's what it's going to be. They're going to get home on him. They're going to get home on him, and they're going to make his life a living hell. They got to get him running, you know, side to side rather than, you know, picking up first downs with his legs. But I think Josh Allen's going to get it done this year. I think that they're going to go ahead and be my pick to go into the Super Bowl from the AFC side. I think that they get it done. And while we're talking about that, why don't we go into the next game on the list right here, which would be the Texans versus the Patriots. So here's Drake May. I mean, you got old school, not really old school. I would say that Houston plays an old school style. You know, Drake May has had an MVP caliber type of season. He rebounded to a slow start last week to finish strong against the Chargers. But right here, he may be facing his toughest test of the season in the Texans defense. They rank in the top 3 in the regular season in points per game allowed. That's 17.4. Yards per game allowed at 277.2. And they have 29 takeaways. Houston dominated the Steelers last week, 30-6, wasn't even close. They looked like that the Steelers shouldn't even have been in the playoffs. So, but when you're looking at Drake May, is he going to be able to handle all that pressure? I mean, Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, Sheldon Rankins. The Texans have occasionally struggled against running quarterbacks like Josh Allen. May has some receiving threats. Kyle Williams. Stephon Diggs, Hunter Henry, and they got Stevenson and Henderson on the ground. Nice 1-2 punch right there. So that's going to be another fun one on the AFC side. The new age Patriots. I guess there is life past Tom Brady and the Patriots. Vrabel has done a hell of a job with the Patriots. Dave's got the Pats. This Houston team, though, I mean, quietly, CJ Stroud has won some games in the playoffs. And that's, I mean, Stroud is hoping for a bounce back effort against a re-energized Patriots D. CJ Stroud is starting his 5th career postseason game on Monday against the Steelers, which is why it was surprising that he appeared to be spooked during a 3-turnover performance. Can the Patriots spook him? I mean, if the Steelers have anything, it's defense. And they've always seemed to have a pretty good defense and to give people a hard time on defense. Is the New England Patriots, is their defense as good as the Steelers? Since getting Milton Williams back, the Patriots pass rush unit has appeared way more impactful in the interior. The Houston Texans are kind of like a sleeper team. I mean, when was the last time that you can really say, these Houston Texans are actually the best Texas team? It's the best Texas team is the Houston Texans, not the Dallas Cowboys. I know you don't want to hear that, Jerry Jones, but no, they've been better than you for a while. And, they've been able to win a playoff game in the last couple seasons, but they haven't been able to get out of the divisional round. So this is a tough one for me to pick. I like the Texans in this game, though. I think there's a bit of easy schedule that's happened with the Patriots this year. And there's nothing wrong with taking advantage of an easy schedule because you can only play the teams that are in front of you. The Lions had to play a first-place schedule this year, and I hate to admit those types of things, but I was wrong about that. They didn't handle the first-place schedule. They lost a lot of close games. A lot of those times, in those close games, it comes down to 1 or 2 plays. And the Patriots have been able to take advantage of some teams that, that aren't going to beat a lot of other teams. So I'm going to take the Texans on this one because I really like the pass rush of a Will Anderson and a Danielle Hunter, and that defense is really, really good in Houston. And I love the quarterback matchup, but I think it comes down to it, and we get a couple upsets in the divisional round, and you get Texans, you get the Bills in the AFC Championship. That's my pick. What do you guys think out there for the AFC Championship? Who do you got? I got Texans versus Bills. And I'm not going to sit up here and pretend that I've done a deep dive on any of these AFC teams. But since my team is eliminated, I'm forced to talk about these other teams. I don't get the right to talk about my Lions as much, even though we're going to be talking about some offensive coordinator stuff here a little bit later. What's up, broski? Congratulations, brother. I distinctly remember me and you talking in the middle of the season, and you were down on your team thinking, you know, what are these Bears going to do? And I said, you got to watch out for these Bears. They got a nice schedule. They got some teams that they can and should beat, and they took care of business, and they won the NFC North. And I'm not going to lie, I actually enjoyed a little bit. I'm not one of those guys, I didn't know who to really root for against the Packers versus the Bears. But then when I started watching the game, it became obvious who I wanted to root for. I just don't like the Packers. I just don't like the Packers so much that in that game, broski, I was able to look at Benedict Johnson, the turncoat, the man who turned his back on the Lions and went to the Bears, and I couldn't root against him with the Packers. I just can't root for the Packers. I just can't do it. No matter how hard I try. I wanted to be mad. I wanted to be mad at Ben Johnson. And I'm in another one of those situations this week where it's Matt Stafford versus the Bears. I really don't care who wins that game. And that'll take us to this next one. Since you're in here, I'll tell you. We'll talk about that game now. Bears versus Rams. Russ, you had more faith than me, but quit blaming it on the schedule. The Bears had the second toughest schedule in the league the second half of the season. Not really blaming it on the schedule. I'm just pointing out that when we talked, I looked at the next 3 or 4 games, and I was looking at it, and I was like, the Bears can win these games. I think the Bears did some good things in the offseason. They went and fixed the right things. Over the last 3 years, been making fun of them because they wouldn't give Justin Fields any support. They didn't give Justin Fields any support. And this year, you know, second year into Caleb Williams, his tenure, they got him a badass center, couple good interior offensive line. They already had a couple good tackles, and they built the team up around him. And it's amazing what a good offensive line will do when you get to move people. I have to give you credit, broski. At the beginning of the year, you told me how big of an impact not having Frank Ragnow and not having Kevin Zeitler. And I'm like, hey, Hank Fraley will just coach everybody up and everything's going to be just fine. And it wasn't. It was obvious that the run game wasn't working as good for the Lions because we had that good offensive line, and now they have to build that stuff back up. Well, now Ben Johnson's got that. And you got Matt Stafford versus the Bears, and they're in Soldier Field. And I'm looking at this game, man, and this should be a really, really good game. I love the games that are on this slate. And I think that going to Soldier Field may be the thing that needs to happen if the Bears are going to win. I think that is an advantage because Matt Stafford, as good as he is, that he doesn't do as well in the cold weather. It was a myth when it comes to Jared Goff. Jared Goff, they say that he doesn't do well in cold weather, but he seems to win cold weather games. But Matt Stafford, on the other hand, when it came to Matt Stafford winning teams, He didn't do that well here in Detroit, but he hasn't played very well in cold weather, even when he's played with the Rams. So, the Bears might end up in the NFC Championship right here. And it all depends on who can control the game, in my opinion. If the Bears can get things going on the ground, they can get DeAndre Swift going in there, and they can take some possessions away because Matt Stafford's going to score. I mean, that dude has got an off. I mean, what was like 46 touchdowns? I mean, he can still ball. So as long as the Bears don't put themselves into a shootout, I think that they could be just fine in this game. So this is a tough one for me to pick. Who do you guys got in there? Rams versus the Bears. Either way, as a Lion fan, you're going to look at this and it's like you don't want to see either one of these teams in the NFC Championship. Either way, you either get Ben Johnson, the turncoat that goes into the NFC Championship, and you got to live with that. Your coach, my coach, leaves coaching my offense, goes to another team. My team misses the playoffs, and that team goes to the NFC Championship. That's one reality. Another reality is you trade Matt Stafford to the Rams. He immediately goes and wins a Super Bowl. You get a bunch of draft picks. You rebuild up your team. They eat those draft picks. Your team misses the playoffs, and then you get the Rams back in the Super Bowl again. And that's crazy. That's like the ultimate loss right there. It almost makes me feel like a lot of Lion fans want to root for Stafford. I don't really want to root for Stafford in this, because then that means that it failed. That means that getting extra draft picks and building up your team, the team lost its first two draft picks, first round picks, and then they were able to recover from that, build their team up quicker than you were able to build your team up with extra picks. So to me, that's more embarrassing than taking your good coach, going to the Bears, and then having the Bears do well, because the Bears did have a talented team. They've had a lot of talent on their team for a couple years now. They just didn't have good coaching or good offensive line. They built those things up, and they were able to go there. So if the Bears end up going into the NFC Championship, that actually looks better on Dan Campbell. It means that he can develop coaches, and that, teams that leave here don't leave here and go to die. So it's a hard one for me, but I'm gonna root for the Bears in this game, because I don't have the rivalry to the Bears like I have the rivalry for the Packers. I hate the Packers. I can't root for the Packers. I didn't know last week if I wanted to root for the Packers or the Bears. And then the game started, and I'm like, I can't root for the Packers. I can't do it. I can't do it. I hate the Packers. I hate the Packer fans. It brought me more joy to see the Packers, choke away a big lead after them talking all that smack, going all in with their guy. I mean, it's hard. Well, don't read too much into that, broski, because I'm not going to root for you in the NFC Championship if you get there. Not going to do that. But in this game, with Stafford in there, I don't want him to go there. I don't want them to advance and go to a Super Bowl again after we took their draft picks. Yeah. The crying that I heard this week from Packer fans is amazing. They cry like little babies. They don't know how to lose, broski. They don't know how to lose. Spirit of Detroit Lions is in the house, man. What's up? What's up? So I wanted to go back in now that some more of you guys are in here. I wanted to go back in. To take a quick minute right here. I want to make the most of the time that I have right here, and coming on here to me is a privilege. And you know, the reasons why I haven't been on here, I'm not going to go into the great details on it, but I'm in full support of autism awareness. The QR code in the corner is going to support the mission on there. All I'm going to say is that my son Riker wasn't treated right in school. I had to be here. These were the times that I usually did my shows, and you know, it's faith, family, and then football. And I'm always going to choose my family first when it comes with this type of thing. So I'm going through it. I'm going to try to do, I have an opportunity to do this show today. So I'm going to try to get as much, to talk about as much of the news that's been out there as I possibly can here, because I don't know when I'm going to be able to do another live. But just know that if you hit that QR code up there, then that is it's special needs blessing. Every donation is going to go towards helping my wife continue to spread awareness and advocating for families who are walking down the same road that we are in here. And she does a phenomenal job on that. So I'm not doing fanatics anymore. Because I'm not going to do this for the personal reason anymore. This is going to be for autism awareness from here on out. So this show is brought to you by Autism Awareness. And if you want to be part of the special needs blessings that's on that QR code, thank you, Big M53. And we're making it through. My son is now going to the school that my wife teaches at, so he's right down the hall, and that's going to open up at least some opportunity. I should be able to come on here and do a live at least once a week. I'm going to do my best to try to do that, but the everyday thing is just going to be impossible for me anymore when it comes with that. But sorry, I got off subject right there. But if you want to support that, do that in there. So thank you for your support on that. But back into Bears versus Rams. I think the Bears can win this game. I think Ben Johnson's done a great job with what they have with the Bears. And if they can control the line of scrimmage and limit possessions, because Puka Nacua is a beast. They got a 1-2 punch over there with Corum and Kyron Williams. That's unbelievable. They are unbelievable on offense, and the Bears don't want to get into a shootout. So that's what I'm going to say. So if the Bears can control the clock, limit possessions, I don't think that the Bears are going to be able to get behind 21-3 against this Rams team and expect to come out on top. So the Bears they can't start out slow like they've been starting out slow. But I think that they're going to end up in the NFC Championship. At least I hope that they do, because I don't want to see Stafford go in there and get another title before the Lions. But it is what it is. We'd have to deal with it. But we got to hear from Matt LaFleur. Yeah, that sounds about as smart as your last press conference. So let's go into this other one right here, because if the Bears do get into the NFC Championship, they're going to have to play one of these two teams. And come on! How dare you doubt Donald Schwarzenegger? You doubted me. I won 14 games, 2 games in a row. Do it now. You're coming to Seattle. We got 12 men. Yeah. Darnold Schwarzenegger. Sam Darnold. And against the San Francisco 49ers. What a division that is. Man, I was sitting here talking about how I thought that the NFC North was the toughest division. Maybe 4 deep it is, because we had all winning teams in the NFC North. And the Minnesota Vikings don't even have a quarterback. That's crazy. But the strongest teams, the 3 strongest teams, holy crap. Seattle against the San Francisco 49ers. So who do you got in that one? I mean, Brock Purdy is undefeated versus Seattle. That was a stat that surprised me. The starting quarterback, Brock Purdy, of the San Francisco 49ers, played in Seattle a total of 4 times in his career, and he won all 4 games. That's the most wins without a loss by any road quarterback in NFL history. That's crazy to me. That is crazy to me when it comes with, how famous that 12th man is in Seattle, how hard it is over the years to win games in Seattle. And Brock Purdy is undefeated in Seattle against the Seahawks. That's crazy. Do you think the Seattle can win this game? Seattle, 14 wins. Sam Darnold won 14 games 2 years in a row. I think that might be like him and Tom Brady are the only 2 quarterbacks to ever do that. Seattle's one of those teams that nobody's believed in, but you better believe in them. Because it'll surprise me if they lose this game. I mean, on one hand, you got Seattle, who surprised everybody this year. Nobody expected Sam Darnold to do what he did. You might put a lot of that on Jackson Smith-Njigba being an absolute stud. Going out there and flirting with the Calvin Johnson yards record as a wide receiver. It's a nice feather in the cap. Sam Darnold has rejuvenated his career. And if you don't believe in Sam Darnold at this point, then you haven't been watching. You're still looking at old Jets and Carolina Panther footage, and you're thinking that that's what it is. And that's not it at all. He is rejuvenated. That Seattle defense is for real. And on the other side of it, you got San Francisco. Like, when you look at the injuries, and this is why nobody's really able to use the injury card, I believe that you got to win with who you got. I'm not going to use that excuse for the Lions. I mean, sure, yeah, if we would have had Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch and Terrion all healthy, blah, 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 blah. But the bottom line is they weren't healthy for whatever reason. And that may be one of the reasons. You may have to work on your strength and conditioning. But San Francisco, minus Fred Warner, minus Joey Bosa. Half their defense is gone. Offensive lineman gone. Brock Purdy was out for a handful of games. So basically, over the last 5 games, it's been nothing but Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey just willing these guys to win, and they win with whoever. They win with whoever. So to me, San Francisco has no business winning this game if Seattle wants to say that they're the real deal. You want to prove that you're better than a regular season game? You had the bye. You've had the rest. Seattle should win this game. Seattle should end up in the NFC Championship. As a matter of fact, I think Seattle should end up in the Super Bowl. But we all know how 1 seeds fare. Doesn't matter. Seems like for some reason the bye week seems to hurt teams more than it helps them. And it isn't just the Lions last year. For some reason, it's just like playing every week. There's just something about it. Being hungry, getting those reps in there, not having that routine. I'm off of my routine today. So with that being said, long story short, my NFC Championship pick is going to be the Chicago Bears versus the Seattle Seahawks. 1 versus 2. So let's see what we got in here. Broski says my son rocks. Thank you, man. I have been able to get my today is in there. I sing with my son on a regular basis in the morning. We got this song in the morning that we made up, but one of the things that he loves to do, he loves to talk about, dates and numbers and you get into routines. Speaking of routines, and we say, today is Saturday, tomorrow is Sunday, yesterday was Friday, but today is Saturday. It's January 16th, 2026, and whatever the temperature is. And he loves to sing that song with me. I wrote a little guitar ditty with it, and we sing it in the mornings. And so thank you for that. I forgot that this was the Broski Bears channel. Well, this is the Broski Bears Lions channel. Well, Joseph, if the Lions were in the playoffs, I'd be talking about the Lions. But I'm talking about the playoff games in here. Big M says, if Stafford can grip it and rip it in that cold, the Rams will win, I believe. But the Rams Stafford just hasn't been all that good to grip it and rip it in the cold weather. David says that I'm a football fan, but not really going to watch. Okay. Dave says Seattle 27, Niners 23. So yeah. So I got Bears Seattle in the NFC Championship. And there you go. So, that's playoff football. Thank you for talking playoff football with me. So now I'm going to get into the Lions subjects, which is the Lions are in the search for an offensive coordinator. And, in my opinion, we got a bunch of these guys, man. They're interviewing a lot of people. And first and foremost, what I wanted to be able to say is I'm glad that they're doing that. Last year, they were really, really quick to just go get, John Morton, the familiarity. And, he's just there trying to keep that magic, try to keep those plays that worked while Ben Johnson was here and kind of keep the status quo. And it didn't work. It didn't work. So by midseason, Dan Campbell had taken over play calling and immediately made an impact with getting the star players on the team involved. And that's with poor offensive line play. I think the Lions can do a lot better in this upcoming season to just get better offensive line play. You're going to have your young players taking another step. Tate Ratledge played pretty well throughout the season. Graham Glasgow did not. So Graham Glasgow likely gone. So they're going to need to go find a bona fide center. I think that they believe in Christian Mahogany. I like that going into a third year. You want to develop your offensive linemen, and they need to make upgrades there. They may have to replace Taylor Decker coming off. They've kind of fixed the cap issues, and they haven't even done any restructures yet. So from a free agency standpoint, I think this is going to be one of the biggest off seasons that the Lions have had under Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell. I think they could end up with the most spent money in this offseason because a lot of the things that they got in place last year, which they took a lot of criticism for because they didn't go all in. Well, this is the year where I can put that theory to the test and find out if I was right or not. But I believe the reason they've done the things the way that they've done it is because they wanted to get their foundation pieces that were in there. And with restructures of Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jared Goff, and Penei Sewell, you could do one with Aleem McNeil as well. Especially if Decker retires, they can pull out over $100 million with the restructures and kicking that can down the road. So I'm not worried about Goff's really, really big cap number this year because really that's a line of credit. If you know anything about cap numbers, he's got a base salary and he's got a cap number, and the cap number is $69 million, but the base salary is like $55 million, which means that you can go to the bank with that $55 million and you can take out a mortgage on your quarterback, which will free up a ton of money, and they'll be able to make some moves. So last year, we're talking about how are you going to be able to re-sign Branch, how are you going to be able to re-sign Laporta and Gibbs, and that's how they'll do it. They'll restructure those guys. They want to keep those guys together. They'll keep that band together. So they'll do that. And then the next thing would be, let's find an offensive coordinator. So you got skill positions for days, man. I really like the Lions' skill positions, which is why I think that they can land a guy like Mike McDaniel. I know Mike McDaniel's going to go out. He's interviewing for some head coaching jobs, but he had came out and said that he would take a good OC job over some crap. I mean, he's not going to go coach the Browns. The one that worries me is the Ravens. I mean, he could take the Ravens job. I mean, that's probably high on his list to have Lamar Jackson in there, and I think that Lamar Jackson would be a pretty cool matchup with Mike McDaniel. But outside of that, I don't see any of those head coaching jobs being all that great for him. Now, the Philadelphia Eagles also want an offensive coordinator, and they have some really, really good skill position players too. So it's not a shoo-in that the Lions would get it, but the Lions' job is very attractive to an offensive coordinator. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown, you got Jameson Williams, you got Jahmyr Gibbs, you got Sam Laporta will be coming back, and you need help on that offensive line, but that's something that is definitely doable in this offseason to make that offensive explosive. And the fact that the Lions actually had a top 3 offense by almost every statistical measure with having such poor offensive line play, it sucks that we're sitting here watching playoffs from the couch, but for the future, you got these guys for the next 4 years. You got Isaac Tesla, who's going to slide in there and play that Tim Patrick role very nicely. Very sneaky 3rd round pick for as much crap as the Lions got about this year's draft. Isaac Tesla is going to be a part of the future. The Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tesla, Jameson Williams combo, that doesn't suck. And you have that combo locked up for the next 4 years. So I feel good about those skill positions. And I believe that Jahmyr Gibbs will get himself a long-term contract. He's eligible to get it done this year, but you could get him on a 5th-year option and take care of it next year too, but it's going to cost you more money. But they're keeping that core together. So, that's good. That's good. Why is Broski he's a Bear fan? I need some Lion fans in here commenting on the Lions, but this is a good one. Frazier and Ratledge will be your starting offensive guards for years. Mahogany will be the top backup. That's a good take. I like that the young deal in there. They had said that they'd been working with Ratledge, at the center position last year. We'll have to see how they do that. I really don't want them to do that. I would really like to see them go get a bona fide center, somebody that they can put in there and have that young core in the middle. And those are 3 decent offensive linemen right there. And Frazier did show the most promise. He was injured. He kind of reminded me of what Mahogany did last year, where he was injured for most of the season, came in at the end of the season and actually had some good games. So getting worked into that. And I do believe that Hank Fraley's a good coach in there, and I'm hoping that we can keep him through this year. But as far as the offensive coordinator goes, let's look at some of these. I got something up here. They've interviewed Baltimore Ravens quarterback coach T. Martin. They've interviewed Seattle passing game coordinator Jake Peetz. They interviewed Mike McDaniel, obviously. Giants interim head coach Mike Kafka. And Falcons offensive coordinator Zach Robinson. Now, I know that they requested a coordinator interview with Arthur Smith. So one of the things I like that they're doing is they're doing their due diligence. They're not just going to go and settle on a guy. I want them to talk to 70 guys if they can, I want them to listen to everybody's pitch. Why should we pick you? Why should we pick you? Mike McDaniel would be a home run hire for the Lions. He's an offensive genius, and I think that he's went and been an offensive coordinator, then a head coach, went back to being an offensive coordinator, and so he's played this role before. He kind of played himself out of the head coaching, getting a good head coaching job. I don't think that he's going to get much belief that he's the type of head coach that's going to take you to a Super Bowl. So, but if he comes into a team like the Lions or the Philadelphia Eagles and he can use his wizardry, bring that team up and be a top echelon offensive team again, then he's going to be right back in that, top head coaching guys for 2027. And I think that's going to be the play. I think he is going to take an offensive coordinator job somewhere. And it would be really, really cool to see him here. I would love to see what he would do with this offense, especially in the run game. I love what he's did with A-Chain, and like they had no offensive line either. So that, in my opinion, I would like it to be Mike McDaniel. I want somebody that's got experience that can come here and coach this offense. Somebody that can help get the most out of these skill position wide receivers and the spacing and all that. I know that Mike McDaniel likes to use a lot of motion and confusion at the line of scrimmage, a lot like Ben Johnson did. So I think that that's something that would be attractive to the Lions. So all right. I'm about ready to get out of here pretty soon, too. I'm going to talk about some of these free agents, too. But it's good to see you on here, broski. I don't know if Dave's still on there. We got 2 Daves in there. Thank you to Big M. Thank you to Joseph. Thank you to the Spirit of Detroit. Becca was in the house. It's been a minute since I've been able to get on here. But we've talked about all 4 of the divisional playoff games. We've talked about a little bit about this offensive coordinator situation. And I'm looking at these guys right here. I wouldn't mind seeing like I got to see which one. T. Martin. I mean, I'm not going to be upset if the Lions go and, get a guy like Jake Peets. Or they have a guy from the Rams. The Rams got a nice, young, hot commodity that's out there. And that would remind me a lot of the Ben Johnson kind of deal. So if they want to take a hot new name, I wouldn't mind that either. But if it's me, what I want to see happen, even just to rejuvenate the fan base, is I would like to see that we would get somebody like Mike McDaniel. That would be a home run hire for the Lions right there. And, Kafka, I wouldn't mind that either. He was the interim head coach. With nobodies, he was able to do pretty well with Jameis Winston and, a bunch of injured running backs. So that wouldn't make me feel too bad either. But one of the things I wanted to talk about a little bit was some of the free agencies, guys, and the ones that are on our team. me see if I can get this better. Give me a second right here. Hold on a second. Trying to get you a good picture here of all of our free agents that we have. And we have a lot of free agents, but we don't have a lot of free agents that are like, oh my gosh. Like, the core of the Lions team is set for the next few years. Like the heavy hitters is set. We need to reset the depth. The depth wasn't great last year, but it wasn't as bad as what people thought, in my opinion. Let's see if I can, how do I do that? Okay, image file. Get you in there. Can I get in there? Yeah, there we go. You guys see that? It looks blurry. It looks freaking blurry. They're being mean to me. Don't be mean to me. Okay, maybe that one's a little bit better. Let's try that one. Dun, 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 dun. Remove it. Let's try. That one might be better. All right. Going through these little bit by little bit. QB Kyle Allen, I don't care. You know, I don't think Kyle Allen would cost you anything. Yeah, I don't like that in there. If I'm looking at Kyle Allen, I'll bring it up over here. I'll just talk about him out loud, if you don't mind. So Kyle Allen, would you bring him back? Yay, nay? I could care less. You know, if you don't, then you got to get yourself a backup quarterback. It seems like he did okay last year. They never really had to use him. If we're using a backup quarterback, we really don't have a chance to begin with. Honestly, if you're going to develop a guy, I'd rather see them use a draft pick and develop a guy right from the ground up. You know, I know that we still have buyer's remorse for Hendon Hooker, but what are you going to do about that? Alex Anzalone. That's one that you would like to have back, but, you know, he's a really, really good linebacker, and I think that he's going to go get paid somewhere. Alex Anzalone. How would you feel about Alex Anzalone? Let's put that in there. Alex Anzalone. We'll do it like that. What would you do? How much would you spend on Alex Anzalone? I'm thinking that he's going to get 10 plus million a year. You know, he's north of 30, and somebody's going to give him a 3-year, $30 million deal, at least, if not like a 3-year, 36, something like that. And I just don't see us paying 2 more linebackers, because I do believe Jack Campbell is going to get a contract this offseason, and they're going to lock him up to keep him here right along Aiden Hutchinson. Why did he get in there? And then there's Coyote Awasika. That's a good depth piece right there. in my opinion. I think that Coyote is somebody that you definitely want to have as a depth piece on there. I don't think that he costs you that much. What is that? Why do they do it like that? Take that timer off. There we go. So, Coyote Awasika. Let's see who else we got in here. Oh. I am not doing well in here. Gosh. Tristan Colon, Zach Cunningham, Marcus Davenport. Nah. Anthony Fursker, Jamarco Jones, Roy Lopez. I like Roy Lopez. There's one that we could keep. I think that he played excellent. Every time I seen him out there, that dude's making a play. And I think that's another one that I don't believe that we're going to have to spend too much money on. Give me some Roy Lopez. I think that he was the best defensive tackle free agent that Brad Holmes got. Avonte Maddox, I thought that he played excellent. He's a slot corner. They moved him to safety. They made him switch positions. I like the way Anthony Maddox played. Or Avonte Maddox. Arthur Mallette. These are guys that wouldn't cost you anything. You know, you want to bring those guys. I could see those guys being back on the practice squad. Al-Quadin Muhammad, he's going to be pricey. That's a good question for you. I mean, Al-Quadin Muhammad had 11 sacks on the season. Maybe even more than that, but I think it was 11 sacks. He's going to go get paid. How much would you pay Al-Quadin Muhammad? I mean, would you throw out 10 plus million a year to keep Al-Quadin Muhammad around? I mean, if they're going to spend some money on that position, I'd rather see them go in and get, you know, I think Trey Hendrickson's actually available. Like, without any draft picks. He's going to go out there and get a contract. Would you spend some money? If we're going to spend some money, I'd rather see that happen. You know, over Al-Quadin Muhammad. Levi Onwuzurike. Levi Onwuzurike would be a sneaky one. Levi Onwuzurike. He would be. I'm hoping that Levi Onwuzurike is this year's Davenport. You know, it's not going to be one that anyone's going to like, but he's a guy that played well in one season, and then he's been really injured. So he's not going to cost anything. I think that he would be a sneaky depth signing, Levi Onwuzurike, because no one's really thinking about him. No one's thinking about Levi O. He's a guy that's versatile. He's played end. He's played in the interior. He's a guy that was drafted here. He had his best season before his injury. So Levi O would be somebody, as long as you're not spending too much, don't try to tell me that you're going to pay him $10 million a year or something like that. But if you can get him, on a $2 million contract, I wouldn't mind seeing Levi O here. Khalif Raymond. I mean, I like Khalif Raymond, but at some point in time, you need to believe in the guys that you drafted.
Check. Hey. 1, 2. How about the camera? Anything in there? There we go. Man, I don't know what the hell happened right there. Boom. Back in business? Yeah. All right. Khalif Raymond, as far as the Khalif Raymond goes, I would love to have Khalif Raymond here, but eventually you have to bet on your guys. When it comes to it, you drafted Lovett to be a punt returner, play special teams. You drafted these guys. You get Tom Kennedy. Tom Kennedy did well at the punt return. You just can't spend, $12 million a year on a punt returner or $7 million or whatever it was. I love Khalif Raymond, but you drafted Isaac Tesla, you drafted Lovett, and you just paid Amon Ra, you paid Jameson Williams. You got your guys. You brought Raymond over here when you had nobody, but now you don't have nobody anymore. So I'm going to say no on Khalif Raymond. That's why they restructured his contract from a 2-year deal down to a 1-year deal. Alex Anzalone is the same way. And then you got DJ Reader. To me, if the price is right, you go ahead. You can bring back DJ Reader. I wouldn't mind that. You can never have enough defensive tackles. If you wanted to give a contract out to DJ Reader and Roy Lopez, Levi O, you got those guys in there. Tyleek. I like defensive line at that point. But I don't think that they're all coming back. I think that you probably make a choice between Roy Lopez and DJ Reader. And frankly, Roy Lopez played better. Can you guys hear me out there? Did I screw this thing up? If you can hear me, type that you can hear me. I just want to make sure. Hello? Check 1, 2. Anybody hear me out there? Yes. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I think that the choice is going to come between Roy Lopez and DJ Reader, and my vote would be for Roy Lopez because you can get him cheaper. Amik Robertson, somebody had mentioned that in here. Barry said Amik if he plays slot or nickel. Amik, I thought I think that people gave him like a bad rap last year because he had a couple of plays where he really got burnt. But it's like every single time, even when, even though not the burnt times, he did get burnt a couple of times in that, but Amik played pretty good last year. And even on a lot of the plays where, he got a ball caught on him or whatever. Yeah, I'm sorry about the broke up stuff here. Hopefully that fixed it right there. I think sounds better to me. But Amik Robertson, yeah. Malcolm Rodriguez, I think, I've talked about this a little bit earlier in the season about Malcolm Rodriguez and Alex Anzalone. And Malcolm Rodriguez, when he came back, he serves as a depth piece, and you drafted him, and if you're gonna let Alex Anzalone walk, then you need to bring back Malcolm Rodriguez. That way, you got your linebacker core, and I don't think that you're gonna have to pay Malcolm Rodriguez a big salary or anything, and you can keep him in here, and at the very least, he provides you quality depth. And there you go. I may have to bail on this. I don't know. We'll have to see. I feel like if Barry says I'm still breaking up in here, but I'll try to get through the rest of these. Malcolm Rodriguez, Jalen Mills, Dan Skipper. Dan Skipper may retire. I'll always take Dan Skipper back. You can get him back for a bag of chips. Daniel Thomas, you can always use safety depth. Ezekiel Turner, he was injured, but he can always provide depth. Rock Ya-Sin, I thought that he played excellent. That would be a nice contract right there. So out of all these guys, Rock Ya-Sin, Amik Robertson, Levi O on a cheap deal, Roy Lopez, maybe Kyle Allen, and that's it. That's it. Go into free agency, get guys that weren't here last year. I think you need new blood as much as you can. I don't see too many of these guys coming back. So let me know in the comments what you think. Who would you want to have come back out of all these guys? I don't see any giant names on here. I'm not getting too broken up about too many of these guys. I loved Alex Anzalone while he was playing here. They could re-sign him. I would be happy. If they don't bring him back, I'm not going to lose sleep over that, because this is what you do. You draft and develop. You're looking to move on from those guys and go with younger, talented guys. And I just don't see the Lions paying, $10+ million a year for another linebacker. I think the cheapest guys that want to come back and be death pieces are going to be the ones that stay here when it comes with that. But it's faith, family, and then football, man. I'm glad that you guys got a chance to come and be part. Ken Fisher says, in my opinion, defensive coordinator had better talent on the field compared to last season, but yet we gave up way too many points on third down conversions. He's not good at making adjustments, and in my opinion, he has been nothing more than a cheerleader. I don't know if I totally agree with that. I think the defense showed flashes. They were good, and then they weren't good. And then, I think I would give Kelvin Shepherd another year in that system. I really want to see Aleem McNeil a year removed from that ACL injury. Have him have a full offseason. See how that works. The Lions season, sometimes I think that I'll throw a take out here. I think that Lion fans in general gets too over the top. I think it's too much of a knee-jerk reaction, and it's too much. It's this because of this, and I think the whole season come down to a couple of plays, man. When it comes down to it, it's like, how do you go from 15-2 all the way down to 9-8? That's such a drastic. We need to tear everything down, and I don't believe that. I think last year when we were 15-2, a lot of fan base just loved that aggressive. Dan Campbell, big balls, Dan Campbell. He's going for it, and yeah, Dan Campbell, go get it. Dan Campbell's gonna get it done, and they were very successful. I think they got a lot more of those fourth downs. They went for it, and they got it. And this year, they didn't. I think they went for a lot of fourth down here in this season, and they didn't get it. And to boot on the other side of that, it seems that they went for it a lot on fourth down, and they got it. So I hear a lot of people say, Dan Campbell's dumb. He's Dan Gamble. He goes for it way too much, and this and that. And maybe, you can have that argument. You can say kick field goal and all that, but the thing is, it's disingenuous to say that fourth down. People don't. It's not going to work when it worked against us. Green Bay was. They only failed one or two fourth downs against us in both games. It seems that we're aggressive against us, and we lost a couple games like that. The Philadelphia Eagles came down to the last possession. One play goes our way. I'm not playing refs or anything like that, but those plays, if they didn't call that offensive pass interference, or they call that pass interference on the Philadelphia Eagles, Lions probably would have won that game. 2 touchdowns got called back in that Pittsburgh game. We probably would have won the game, but they would have counted those touchdowns. A 2-game swing puts us in the playoffs. So I think that the line between winning and losing is so thin that sometimes that thin line causes emotional responses to it. And I think that Dan Campbell is right to say we're not going to do drastic things that change here because we weren't really all that far off. In 2024, the Lions won those close games. They made those big plays at the end. At 1 or 2 plays, that was swung in our way. That's why we won 15 games. And last season, they didn't. They didn't make those big for whatever reason. But it's not like the whole game they sucked. It's like 1 or 2 plays, and the game's just the other way. So, if you play this off season, you're going to see a lot of things approach. I think they're going to sign a bunch of our guys again. You're going to see check in get a big extension. I think you're going to see Jahmyr Gibbs get a big extension. They may wait on Branch and Laporta because of the injuries. You know, I think they'll sign a couple other guys. I think you're going to see them move some money around. Restructure Goff, restructure Sewell, restructure Amon Rock. St. Brown, maybe add a year to the end of their deal. Push that into 2030. And they're going to keep this band together. They're going to keep this core together. And you're going to see him fill a lot of those depth holes with a lot of the same type of guys. A lot of the names that you're going to go, who's that? And it's going to be guys like Brock Yassin. We're going to pick up depth pieces that are like that. Key guys that can do what they need them to do. And that's what I'm going to lead you with. It's Fake Family Football on here. Thank you very much for jumping on here and be part of the Bill and Report. I don't know when I'm going to be on here again. We try to come on here once a week, but thank you for being part of the show. Thank you for supporting autism awareness. You're doing that, hit that QR code. And all of that money is going to go and help my wife spread awareness and advocate for autistic families with autistic children, that she can help get information do and help them go down the path of being a parent with child with autism. So thank you very much. One right here, faith, family, and then football. God bless you guys. I'll see you in the next video. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord shine his face upon you until we meet again in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you, everybody. Peace out.